The night was quiet at the edge of the spaceport. Most workers had gone home. Shops were closing. Lights were dim, but one human man still sat on a bench beside a row of trash bins. His name was Darren. He was a janitor, middle-aged, tired, and always hungry after his shift. He opened a small metal box. Inside were leftover fries, half a burger, and a cold bottle of water. Darren sighed and took a bite. It was cold, but it was food. He leaned back against the bench, letting the cold night air brush his face. Above him, stars blinked in the dark sky. He looked up, tired but peaceful. Then he heard a sound. Soft footsteps, too soft for adult boots, too light to be a patrol droid. He turned his head from behind. The trash bin, two small figures peeked out. Darren blinked, unsure if he was seeing things. They stepped closer to alien girls, maybe 10 or 11 years old. Thin, dirty, their clothes torn and oversized. Their skin had a soft shimmer, pale like moonlight. Their eyes were large and glowing softly blue. The taller one stepped forward. She held the younger one's hand tightly. Her voice was so soft it almost didn't reach his ears. "Can we eat your leftovers?" Darren froze. The bite of burger stayed in his mouth. Untouched, he looked around. Was this a trick? Was someone filming him? But there was no one. Only the wind. Only the night. Only them. The smaller girl's eyes stared at the burger in his hand. Her lips were cracked. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. The taller one tried to stay. Brave, but her voice shook. "We're sorry. We're hungry." Darren slowly put the burger down. He looked at the food, then at the girls. He saw their thin arms, their shaking legs, and he felt something inside him twist, pain, memory. He once had a daughter. She would have been around their age, if only. He reached out the food tray. "Take it," he said softly. "No tricks. Eat." The girls rushed forward like starving animals, but they didn't grab the food all at once. The older one helped the younger sit down first. Then she broke the burger in half and gave her sister the bigger piece. The younger one tried to bite it, but couldn't figure out how to unwrap it. Darren took it gently, opened the wrapper, and handed it back. She smiled with tears in her eyes and took a big bite, her cheeks puffed up, crumbs falling as she chewed quickly. The older one ate slower, more carefully. But both girls didn't take their eyes off Darren, like they expected him to shout or take it away. "What's your name?" Darren asked. The younger girl looked confused. The older one hesitated, then said, "I'm Nari." "This is Vela." He nodded. "Where are your parents?" They didn't answer. Vela looked down, holding her burger tightly. Nari's eyes filled with fear. "Gone," she whispered. Darren felt his throat tighten. He didn't know what that meant. Dead, lost, taken, but it was enough. "Are you alone?" he asked. Nari nodded slowly. She looked around. "We hide during the day. Come out at night." Darren leaned back, thinking this wasn't just about hunger. Something was very wrong. He saw the bruises on Nara's arm. He noticed the collar mark around Vela's neck, faint but clear. "You can't stay out here," he said quietly. "If the patrol finds you," he stopped himself. The girls didn't understand. Or maybe they did. They looked scared again. Nari stood quickly, pulling Vela up. "We'll go." "Sorry." "No. Wait." Darren stood too. "I didn't mean that. I'm not going to hurt you." He looked around, then whispered, "Come with me. I'll find you a safe place." Nari hesitated. But Vela tugged her sister's sleeve. She nodded. Darren picked up his tray and motioned for them to follow. They moved through the back corridor. Away from cameras, his heart beat fast. He didn't know what he was doing, but he knew this: he couldn't leave them alone in the dark. Not tonight, not ever again. Darren opened the staff-only door slowly. He looked left, then right. No one was there. The hallway lights flickered. He motioned for the girls to follow him quickly. They moved like shadows, light and fast. Vela held onto his coat, while Nari kept looking over her shoulder. They entered a small break room behind the kitchen. It smelled like old soup and metal. Lockers lined one side. A half-broken fridge hummed in the corner. There was a dusty table, a few chairs, and silence. Darren turned on the heater. Just a little. The room warmed slowly. He reached into the fridge and pulled out a box of leftover noodles. "You ever had human food before?" he asked, trying to smile. Nari shrugged. "Only scraps." Darren popped the noodles in the warmer unit. Vela stared at the glowing buttons like it was magic. Her eyes sparkled as the smell of warm sauce filled the room. He gave them forks. Nari looked at it like it was a puzzle. Vela tried to stab the food, but ended up flinging a noodle onto the floor. Darren chuckled softly. He sat down across from them and took another fork. "Like this," he said, showing them. Vela copied him, finally getting a mouthful. Her eyes widened. She chewed faster, her cheeks full again. Nari followed next, slower, but she didn't stop once she started. Darren watched them eat. Their skins still looked dull, their cheeks too hollow, but their eyes had life now. He saw something bloom in that small moment. Safety, warmth, hope. Vela slurped a noodle and giggled. It was the first laugh he heard from her. A high, soft sound, almost musical. It hit him harder than he expected. "Do you know where your mom is?" he asked gently. Vela stopped chewing. She looked at Nari. The older girl's face turned hard. She put her fork down. "She was taken," she said. Voice low. Darren frowned. "Taken by who?" "Bad ship," Nari replied. "They said she owed money. So they took her." His jaw tightened. That meant slavers. Some alien ships didn't just trade goods, they traded people. Illegal, yes, but out here in the outer ring. No one cared, or if they did, they stayed silent. "They said we were too small to sell," Nari added, "but if they find us, they'll take us anyway." Darren rubbed his face. His hands were shaking a little. He didn't sign up for this. He was just a cleaner, a nobody. He didn't know laws, he didn't have power, but now these two girls were his responsibility. And walking away wasn't an option. "I won't let them take you," he said slowly. "You're safe here, with me." Nari looked at him, unsure. Vela whispered. "You're nice," he smiled, though his heart was heavy. Suddenly, the break room lights blinked red. A soft alarm echoed from the hallway. "Motion detected," said the system voice. "Unauthorized presence in restricted area." Darren jumped up. Security. Drones were starting their midnight sweep. He hadn't expected it so early. "Quick," he said. "Come with me." He opened a storage locker, empty except for some towels. He pulled the girls inside and shut the door halfway through the gap. He watched the hallway. A small hover drone floated past the door. Scanning, Darren held his breath. Vela was pressed against his chest, trembling. Nari's hand gripped his arm tightly. The drone paused. It turned slightly, facing the break room, a soft whir as it scanned the door. Darren's heart thudded like a drum. Then the drone moved on. The light returned to normal. Darren waited 10 more seconds before exhaling. He opened the door slowly. "We can't stay here," he said. "Someone saw movement. We have to go." "Where?" Nari asked, scared. He looked at them. Then at the back wall, there was an old exit behind the lockers barely used. He'd once used it when the fire alarm glitched. That might be their only way out. Darren pushed the lockers aside with effort. A hidden metal door appeared, rusted but working. He pulled out his work badge and swiped it. The door clicked open. He turned to the girls. "We're going to go outside the port," he said. "It'll be cold. It'll be dark, but I'll keep you safe." They didn't move at first. Then Vela nodded. Nari followed, her eyes full of fear but trust. Darren grabbed a blanket, wrapped it around them both. Stay close to me, T said. They stepped into the dark tunnel. A chill wind met them, but Darren didn't stop. He held their hands tight. Because tonight, these girls weren't forgotten trash. They were his mission now, and he wasn't going to fail them. Asterisk. The tunnel was dark. Damp air filled their lungs. The only sound was the echo of footsteps. Darren walked ahead, his eyes adjusting to the low light. Nari and Vila followed close. Wrapped in the same blanket, they didn't complain, even when their feet scraped the ground or water dripped from above. This tunnel leads to the vendor docks, Darren said. It's not guarded at this hour. Neither girl replied. They were too tired, too cold, too afraid. After 20 minutes, they reached the end. A metal hatch stood in their way. Darren twisted the manual lock and pushed it open. Cold night air hit them like a wave. They stepped into an alley full of steam vents and old trash. The outer vendor market was empty. The colorful stalls were shut. Lights off, tarps pulled down. But in the distance, city lights blinked and hovered. Beyond that were hundreds of ships parked in silence. Darren led them to an abandoned building behind a noodle stand. He kicked open a loose door and stepped inside. Dust floated in the air. But it was dry, safe. For now, he pulled out an old work mat and laid it on the floor, then gave them both water from his bottle. Rest here, he said. I'll find you something. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small, round device. Black, cracked, blinking red. A translator orb, old model, but maybe still working. He turned it on. It fizzed, sparked, and buzzed. Then a robotic voice said, "Power low translation mode active." He held it up to Nari and said, "Try speaking." Nari blinked, then whispered in her native tongue. The orb struggled, lights flickering. Then it spoke in broken English. She bad men took mother. For money. Vela sat up, her face pale. She pointed to her neck. A faint red ring was still there. Collar, the orb translated. Workship, Mom refused. They punished her. Darren felt his chest tighten. He looked at Nari, shocked. You mean slavers? The orb struggled, then replied, not slavers, but like slavers. They pretend it's legal. Nari looked down, her hands clenched. They call it debt collection. The orb translated slowly. They say our mom owed food debt, and she had to work it off, but she couldn't keep up. Vila added through the orb, so they took her. Said we were too small to work yet. Darren's fists clenched. He had heard rumors of this. Ships that went to poor colonies, offering food. Loans, but if someone couldn't pay, they were taken forced to work on mining rigs or in kitchen halls of trade freighters. Children were often thrown out, sold. It made Darren sick. They were going to sell us too, Nari said, but we ran when the ship docked here. Darren stood up, pacing the room. This isn't just wrong, he muttered. This is criminal. The translator orb buzzed again. Yes, but no one listens. He sat down, rubbing his head. What ship was it? He asked. Nari hesitated, then spoke a word that the orb struggled to translate. The Corvin Dusk. Darren knew that name. It had docked here 3 days ago. The crew was always cold, always kept to themselves. They wore sleek uniforms and always paid in credit chips. Now it made sense they didn't want attention. Because they were hiding something. Darren looked at the girls. You can't go back there, ever, he said firmly. You understand? They nodded together. He stood again, thinking. He needed help, but not from the authorities. Too risky. They might treat the girls like property and return them. He needed someone who knew the underground, someone who cared. An old name came to mind. Laya. She ran a shelter under the outer docks. She used to be a smuggler, but turned her life around. Now she helped runaways, both alien and human. We need to find someone named Leah, he said. She might know how to help, but... As he turned to go, he heard something outside, a soft buzzing. Then a red light blinked through a crack in the wall. Darren ducked down fast. A security drone. It hovered near the alley, scanning the area. The girls held their breath, frozen. Darren slowly moved toward the door, peeking through. The drone paused in front of the old building, then a voice echoed from it. Unauthorized heat signatures detected. Darren cursed under his breath. He turned to the girls. "Stay here. Stay silent," he said. He grabbed a metal pipe from the corner and stepped outside. The drone whirred, lights blinking. Darren walked slowly. "Arms up, I'm just a cleaner," he said calmly. "Doing late rounds." The drone scanned him. "ID not authorized in this zone," it replied. Darren acted fast, smashing the pipe into the drone's sensor. It sparked and crashed to the ground, twitching inside the girls. Flinched, Darren ran back in. "They know someone's here." "Aka," he said. "We have to move." Now Nari grabbed Vila's hand and nodded. Darren scooped up the broken translator orb and stuffed it in his bag. "We find Laya," he said. "We tell her everything." And for the first time, the girls looked at him not with fear, but with hope. Because this human wasn't just feeding them, he was fighting for them. Asterisk, the broken drone lay in pieces behind them. Sparks flickered like fireflies in the night air. Darren led the girls through narrow alleys. Steam rose from vents, hiding them in thick, warm mist. He moved fast, eyes scanning every rooftop, every shadow. Nari held Vela close, both wrapped in the same blanket. "Where are we going?" Nari whispered to someone who might help. Darren replied, "But we have to be invisible until then." They reached the side of a quiet repair shop. A rusty door marked out of order was unlocked. Inside was a dusty maintenance shaft leading underground. "This way," Darren said, stepping into the darkness again. Down below, the lights were dim and flickering. Wires hung from the ceiling. Old consoles lined the walls. A forgotten section of the port's old security station. Darren had cleaned here once before, years ago. Now it was the perfect place to hide. For a little while, he sat the girls down on an old couch with torn fabric, then turned to a control panel on the wall. With shaky fingers, he typed a bypass code. Static filled a nearby monitor, then flashed. "To life still works," he muttered. He clicked through camera feeds. The outer port was swarming. 3 patrol drones scanned the market. Security increased already, Darren said to himself. Then the intercom crackled. Code red. Unauthorized alien juveniles spotted near Sector D12. Last known companion, male human worker, janitor class. Darren froze. His face, grainy and blurred, appeared on the monitor. The image was pulled from a hallway camera, one he forgot to disable. His badge ID was visible on his jacket. "They know it's me," he whispered. He slammed his fist against the console. "I was careful." The girls looked up, alarmed. Nari stood. "You have to leave us. I'll come for you." "No," Darren said quickly. "No one's leaving anyone, but no," he repeated, his voice firmer. "I made a choice. I won't go back on it." Vila reached out and touched his hand. "You're not like the others," she said softly. Darren gave a small smile, then returned to the console. "I need to erase footage," he said, "or slow them down." He found the data node controlling cameras in the D12 sector with a few commands. He looped the footage to show an empty hallway. The image of him and the girls vanished from live feed. "That buys us time," he said. But not much. Just then, a loud clang echoed from the pipe above them. Darren looked up. Motion sensors flashed red. Someone was crawling through the old service duct. "Get down," he said. Pulling the girls behind a broken vending unit, he grabbed a wrench from the floor and waited. The duct cover popped open. A small figure dropped down, landing with a grunt. Darren stepped forward fast, wrench raised. "Wait, wait." The person shouted. It was a Zarnian girl, green-skinned with glowing stripes on her arms. "I'm Leah's runner," she said quickly. "She sent me." Darren hesitated. "Prove it." The girl pulled out a coin with Leah's emblem, wolf, inside a gear. Then she spoke in fast trade language. She said if you ever showed up with trouble, bring you to the underpath. Darren lowered the wrench. He turned to the girls. "Time to go." They followed the Zarnian girl back up the duct. It was tight, hot, and full of dust. But after a few turns, they dropped into another tunnel. Wider and safer. "Where's Leah?" Darren asked. "In her safe house, past the old coolant chambers." The girl replied. "She said you'd know the way." He did. He used to mop those chambers once a week. Always wondered why there were two locked doors at the far end. Now he knew. They reached a heavy metal door. The Zarnian girl tapped a rhythm on it, 3 short, 2 long. It slid open with a hiss. Inside was a wide room lit with hanging lanterns, warmth wrapped around them like a hug. Mattresses on the floor. Steaming bowls of soup on a table. People alien and human huddled quietly in corners. And in the middle stood Leah's tall, scarred, with silver eyes and a thick brown jacket. She looked at Darren and smiled. "You always show up with something broken," she said. He chuckled. "This time, it's 2 lives." "Not a mop." Leah stepped forward and knelt before the girls. "You're safe now," she said gently. "No one's taking you anywhere, Nari." Looked unsure, Vila clutched Darren's hand tightly, but slowly they relaxed. The warmth, the quiet. The smell of soup, it all felt real. Leah stood and looked at Darren. "You're in deep now, I know," he said. "I can't walk away," Leah nodded. "We'll protect them, but you need to be ready. The Corvin Dusk won't let this go quietly." Darren looked at the girls. They were already sitting on the mattress, eating slowly, smiling for the first time, without fear. He turned back to Leah. "Let them come," he said. "I'm not scared anymore." Darren couldn't sleep. He sat by the far wall of Leah's shelter, his back against cold metal, his hands shaking slightly. The soft breathing of the alien girls filled the room. Vila curled up in a blanket, holding a stuffed toy someone gave. Her Nari slept beside her, her hand still gripping Darren's coat, across the room. Leah whispered with one of her lookouts. They spoke in fast trade language. It's too quiet for him to follow. But he didn't need words. He saw the worry in Leah's face, and the way her lookout kept glancing at the door. Finally, Leah walked over and crouched next to him. "They're not just searching the port anymore," she said. "The Corvin Dusk filed a bounty with the Black Ring. That means mercenaries, trackers, bounty hunters." Darren nodded. He felt the pressure in his chest. He had started this by offering food. Now he had to finish it. "We have to get them out of here." He said off-world. Leah raised an eyebrow. "You got a ship hiding in your mop bucket?" Darren gave a tired laugh. "No, but I have an idea." He stood and walked to the far corner of the shelter. There was an old maintenance map hanging on the wall. He pointed to a sector marked G9, Cargo Bay Drain System. "This leads directly under the merchant docks," he said. "There's a supply ship scheduled to leave tomorrow morning. Cargo only, no passenger scans." Leah crossed her arms. "You want to smuggle them out in a freight container?" Darren nodded. "I used to clean that dock every week. I know the guard shifts, camera angles, everything." Leah looked over at the sleeping girls. "They'll need oxygen masks, food, blankets. Do you have that?" "Not yet," Darren said, "but I know where to find it." Later that night, Darren moved through the underpath with Leah's runner. They reached a forgotten storeroom behind the maintenance level. Inside were old mining kit's emergency gear. Masks, rations, heat packs. Darren grabbed 2 of everything and packed them in a crate. As they left, he stopped. "Wait," he said. "We need a tracker blocker." The runner dug into her pouch and pulled out a small cube. "Stick this too." The crate, it'll jam scans for 6 hours. Perfect, Darren said. They returned to the shelter as dawn began to rise. By early morning, the shelter was on alert. Leah had cleared the path to the drain system. The crate was loaded and hidden under dirty tarps. Vila and Nari stood beside it, dressed in oversized cargo uniforms, their eyes wide, nervous, hopeful. Darren knelt in front of them. "This crate isn't big, and it won't be fun," he said. "But it's the safest way off this station." Vela hugged him tightly. Nayari tried to stay strong, but her lip trembled. "You'll come with us?" she asked. Darren shook his head slowly. "I can't," he said. "They're already watching me. If I disappear, they'll search harder, but I'll find you again." He gave them a small cum chip. "This will activate when you're safe. I'll call when it's time." Nari nodded. Vela placed the chip into a pouch on her chest. They stepped into the crate. Darren placed the masks gently on their faces. "Breathe slow. Stay quiet," he whispered. He sealed the crate shut, then locked it with a shipping ID tag he forged, using his cleaning access code. Laya gave him a nod. "We'll get it to dock." "Janine," she said, "you just make sure no one sees you." Hours later, Darren stood on the upper deck, overlooking Dock G9. He wore his janitor uniform, pushing a mop cart like it was just another shift. Below, loaders moved crates onto the supply ship. The crate with the girls was one of them. He watched every movement, heart pounding. Then he saw them 3 bounty hunters, walking down the metal stairs, scanning every crate with handheld devices. They had Corvin emblems on their jackets. One of them pointed at the cargo ramp. "Scan that row again," he said. Darren pushed his cart slowly toward them, acting casual. "Hey," he called out. "Careful with the scanner. There's lithium packs in that section. Too much energy. Burst could cause a leak." The bounty hunter looked annoyed. "Mind your business. Cleaner?" Darren shrugged and moved closer, just enough to see the crate pass the scan no alert. The blocker was working. "Container clear," one of the mercs said. They moved on. Darren exhaled slowly, gripping the mop handle so tightly his knuckles turned white. The loader droid lifted the crate and carried it onto the ship. 1 step, 2 steps, 3, then gone into the hold. They made it. They were gone. He turned away, walked back to the cleaning bay, sat on the floor, and finally let himself breathe. He looked at the small screen on his wristband. Still offline, still no signal, still waiting, but deep inside, he knew they were safe. For now, the freighter ship soared into orbit. Its engines lit the sky like falling stars in reverse. Darren stood alone on the outer catwalk of the port. Wind rushed past him, cold and sharp. He stared up at the shrinking glow until it disappeared into the black. "They're safe," Leah said softly. Walking up beside him, Darren didn't answer. His eyes stayed on the sky, his hands curled into fists. "Not out of anger, but because they were empty. I've never sent kids off-world before," he muttered. "Feels like I just mailed my soul away." Laya gave him a sad look. "You gave them a chance," she said. "A chance most don't get." Darren nodded. But the silence between them felt heavy. 3 days later, Darren was back in the underpaths, still sweeping floors during the day, still sneaking through the tunnels at night. Laya had brought him in deeper now. He was part of the network, helping refugees, smugglers, turned saviors. Runaways hiding from cruel masters. They called the place the Underground Refuge, a place below the main city, hidden beneath blinking neon towers and cargo silos, only reachable through old service shafts and collapsed maintenance tunnels. The rooms were quiet but full of breathing souls. Some with scars, some with burns, some too scared to speak, but all of them looked at Darren like he didn't belong. And he didn't. He wasn't a fugitive. He wasn't born into war. He wasn't hunted. He was just a janitor. But still, he came back every day, bringing food, supplies, blankets, smiles. They started to trust him, slowly, carefully. One night, he was scrubbing rust off the medical room walls when a voice called, "Darren, come quick." It was Laya's runner, the Zarnian girl from before. He dropped the sponge and followed her fast. She led him to the back chamber where Laya sat with a strange device. A soft blue light blinked at its center. "It's the cum chip you gave Nari," Laya said. They activated it. Darren's heart leaped. "Are they okay?" Laya handed him a headset. He placed it over his ears, crackling static. Then Darren. A small voice came through. It was Vela. Her voice was shaky. "But alive. We made it." She said the man on the ship was kind. He let us stay hidden. He dropped us at the refugee station on Karo 6. Darren nearly cried. He sat down hard on the crate behind him. "Are you safe now?" he asked. "Yes," Vela said. "There are other kids here. And Nari." She's smiling again. He heard a second voice, then, clearer, older Nari. "You saved us," she said. "No one else would have. We're going to stay here, maybe help others someday." Darren's throat tightened. He wiped his eyes and smiled. "I'm proud of you both," he said. "Don't forget to live." The signal crackled once more. "Goodbye, Darren," they both said. Then the line went silent. Leah placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. "You got them to safety." Darren looked up. His eyes didn't hold sadness anymore, only purpose. "No," he said. "We did it from that day on." Darren stayed underground. He became the one who cleaned. More than dirt, he cleaned wounds, fears, guilt. He became the human who stayed. Not for glory, not for credit, but because two alien girls had asked him for leftovers. And now, every child who came through the shelter was his reason. They called him Uncle Darren. Even those who couldn't speak English learned to say it. His old mop was gone. Now he carried blankets, meals, tools, books, hope. Leah gave him a small room in the back with a real bed, and sometimes, when the nights were quiet, he would sit by the radio, hoping to hear another signal. Sometimes he did. Sometimes it was Nari. Sometimes it was Vela. And every time they said the same thing. "We're still safe. We're helping others. We miss you." Darren would smile, lean back, and whisper, "I miss you too," above ground. The port still buzzed with ships and commerce. No one knew what happened to the janitor who vanished. No one knew about the broken drone, the forged shipping tag. No one knew a war had been fought quietly, and won but underground in the hearts of the forgotten. The legend of the human cleaner who saved the sisters lived on. And every child who ate warm food, every refugee who slept without fear, owed that peace to one simple act: a man who said yes when two alien girls asked, "Can we eat your leftovers?" The underground tunnels were cold again. Winter winds from the upper vents made the pipes rattle, but inside the hidden shelter, the fire still burned. Not in flames, but in hearts. Darren stood at the center of the room. A group of children, alien and human, sat in front of him. Some were missing limbs, some had glowing scars. All of them were listening. He held up a small metal part piece of a broken drone. "This," he said, "was the first thing I ever fought. Not with guns, not with fists, but with my heart." The children stared at the part like it was magic. They didn't know the full story. Not yet, but they knew Darren. They knew his quiet voice meant truth, and they trusted him. Laya watched from the back, arms crossed, her eyes softer now. She had seen what Darren had become. Not a janitor anymore, not just a helper, but a symbol. That night, as the kids slept, Laya pulled Darren aside. "We got a problem," she said. "Hey, patrol from the Corvin Ring is asking around again." Darren frowned. "I thought they gave up." "Apparently not," Laya said. "They never stop, they just circle slower. They still think the girls are here." Darren's jaw tightened. "They're gone. Safe." Across the stars, but they're still hunting ghosts. Leah nodded. But this time, they're not scanning crates, they're scanning people. Darren's stomach turned. They think we're hiding more. Always, Leah replied. Kindness makes them nervous. The next day, the patrol arrived. 3 Corvin agents in dark armor entered the outer market. Their scanners pulsed green. They questioned vendors, searched carts, and examined faces. Darren saw them from the shadows. He kept his head down. But then, something strange happened. They showed a picture, an aged, digitally altered Amija mixed between Nari and Vila's features. They were trying to guess what the girls might look like now. That meant only one thing. They weren't giving up. They were still trying to reclaim their property back. In the shelter, Darren paced. He couldn't sit still. He remembered Vila's laugh, Nara's quiet courage, and he remembered the fear in their eyes that first night by the trash bin. This has to stop, he muttered. I can't keep hiding. People from shadows that never sleep. Leah raised an eyebrow. You want to fight them openly? I want them to know, Darren said, that they didn't break us. That evening, Darren made a decision. He walked straight into the merchant square, wearing his old janitor uniform, badge and all. He approached the Corvin agents. You? Looking for someone? He asked. The lead agent turned. You match a profile, he said coldly. Darren smiled. Funny, he said. I've been cleaning this place for years. Never knew I was so interesting. The agent stepped closer. Where are the alien girls? Gone, Darren said. Free, because I gave them food. The agent's eyes narrowed. You committed interference. I saved children, Darren said. If that's a crime, then go ahead. People in the square began to stop and watch. Vendors peeked from behind stalls. Whispers spread. Some knew the rumors. Some had heard about the human who took in the broken. The agent raised his hand to arrest Darren, but something unexpected happened. One by one, others stepped forward. Leah's runner, an old merchant Darren once helped with a broken crate. Zarnian cook who gave soup to orphans. And even a vendor whose son had been rescued from the mines. He's not alone, they said. If you take him, you take all of us. The Corvin agents paused. The scanners buzzed but couldn't pick out a single target, because now there were too many voices, too many faces standing between fear and hope. The lead agent growled, "This isn't over." He turned and walked away. The others followed. Darren stood quietly, his heart racing, but not from fear, from something else, victory, back in the shelter. Children gathered around him again. "You're a fighter," one of them said. "No," Darren replied. "I'm a cleaner, but sometimes the galaxy needs a cleaner more than a warrior." They laughed, and Darren smiled. Weeks passed. Then one day, the radio buzzed. A soft beep. A signal. He grabbed the headset and answered, "Hello, Uncle Darren." Vila's voice came through. "We're building our own shelter here," she said, "with food. With blankets and," Nari added, "we teach the others what you taught us." Darren leaned back, his eyes watery. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. "You never walked away," Vela said, "and neither will we." In the galaxy, stories spread like wind, but some stay, some dig deep, some grow into legends. And somewhere far from the shiny stations and silver towers, they still whispered the tale of a human janitor, the man who gave his food to 2 alien girls, and changed everything forever.